¿Sabías que abril es el mes de la prevención del abuso infantil y la concientización sobre la agresión sexual? Según estadísticas recientes, millones de niños y adultos son víctimas de agresión y abuso sexual cada año en todo el mundo. ¿Qué podemos hacer como comunidad para prevenir estos crímenes y apoyar a quienes han sido afectados? Bueno, pues para hablar de este tema nos acompaña el fiscal del distrito del condado de Washington, Kevin Barton. Bienvenido, Kevin. Welcome. Good to see you today again.
Good to see you, Veronica. Thank you for having me back.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here now with this initiative that you are working with in the community. And I would like to ask, what it is important to recognize both child abuse prevention and sexual assault awareness during this month, and what efforts are being made in our community to address these issues?
Yeah, well, thank you. So April is an important month for us because it's when we take a moment to recognize how important and how much attention we need to pay to the issues of child abuse prevention and sexual assault awareness. And so we pay attention to that year-round, but now is a moment in time for us to really raise awareness in our community about these two issues. There are issues that people don't often talk about in public because they are private issues sometimes, and often when these events happen, when abuse occurs and when assaults occur, it often happens behind closed doors. So we want to make sure that people know that we support them, we hear them, we see them, and we're here for them when they decide to report a crime.
What are some of the common warning signs of child abuse and sexual assault that individuals should be aware of? And how can we educate our community to recognize and report them? Most
Yes.
important to report them.
Reporting is so important. So if you see something, say something. And that's important to remember, that we want people to report if they think something may be happening. Even if they're not sure, it's better to err on the side of caution and report. You know, it's hard to know what the warning signs are because it can show up in so many different ways. I think the important thing to recognize is it's not always a stranger, someone who you don't know. In fact, more often than not, abuse like this happens between people that know each other, where there's some type of a relationship. Maybe it's a family relationship, like an uncle or a stepbrother or a cousin. Maybe it's a work relationship or a social relationship. And so we need to be able to recognize that it happens in different ways to different people. If you are aware of it and it's happening to someone you know, you should absolutely report it or encourage that person to report it. And when they do report it, we want people to know that there's a system in place ready to respond, speaking English or Spanish in a culturally appropriate way so people feel comfortable moving forward.
In your experience, do you know any signs of a child abuse? Like what will be, one of those signs? I know it's difficult.
Yeah. So how do you know?
How do you know?
You know, it's hard to say, but there are some common signs that we do look for. So it depends on the age of the child. So for example, if it's a child who's younger, maybe elementary school, and they're usually outgoing and they're always in a good mood, if you notice a sudden mood change, that can sometimes be a sign. But if it's a teenager and there's a sudden mood change, well, that can just be a teenager being a teenager. So it's hard to say for sure. It's the people that know the child when they notice something seems off or something seems wrong. That's when it's important to engage that child. So for parents out there who are listening and watching and thinking, what should I do? The most important preventative thing they can do is have a relationship with their child so their child feels comfortable coming to them. Often when a child is abused, they feel a sense of shame. They worry that it's their fault, the child does. And we want children to know it's never their fault when this happens. It's someone who's taking advantage of them. And so if that child has a relationship with their parent or a loved one and they feel comfortable coming forward, that's the best way that we can support those kids and then do something about the abuse.
Can you tell us about the services or events available in our community to provide resources or raise awareness?
Yes, so we're lucky and fortunate in Washington County to have so many good partners that we work with. So it's not just the police or the district attorney's office. We work with a variety of organizations and medical providers and nonprofits who are there in the community who are available to help out. So a great example is our Family Justice Center of Washington County is a great resource for people when there's a concern of a sexual assault or a child abuse, or you're just not sure what to do. It's a great place to start, to call or reach out to them and say, hey, what should I do? Help me out. And they can help anyone navigate through.
Even if they're not sure that it's happening.
Even if you're not sure, it's much better to just call and talk it through with someone, just so you know what your options are. And if nothing's happening, that's great. But if something is happening, or if something may be happening, it lets us have an opportunity to just double check and make sure. So the Family Justice Center is a great resource. There are many others too. There's an organization called the Sexual Assault Resource Center. They're focused on sexual assault crimes and concerns. There's the Domestic Violence Resource Center, focused on violence that happens inside a home between people that are in a relationship. And then there's therapy providers, there's doctors' offices. A wonderful organization we work with is called CARES Northwest, and they focus on children who may be abused or neglected. And they don't just respond when something happens and be done with it. They also provide therapy for that child or that teenager so they can heal, because the focus here is to address the problem, but also help that child or that person heal so they can move forward and live a good and productive life.
That's wonderful to hear that there is resources and you guys are doing it, providing all this type of events. How can individuals support victims or child abuse and sexual assault in a community? And what roles does the community involvement play in prevention and support efforts?
That's a wonderful question, because in law enforcement, whether it's the police or the DA's office, we can't really do anything without the community coming forward. So imagine it's like a baseball. Like you have the pitcher throwing the baseball, the batter, who's going to bat, who's going to swing the bat. We'll swing the bat, but someone has to throw us the ball. Right. And so we need the community to come forward and to report crimes or report concerns so that we have something that we can address. If the community doesn't come forward, then there's nothing we can do. So the best thing that your listeners and your viewers can do is, if they see something or they're concerned, to report that concern, or to talk to the child, or talk to their friend, or just let people know what's happening so that we can help take action.
Is there a scenario where someone knows about a situation where a kid has been abused or a woman has been abused, can that person come forward and be anonymous?
Sometimes, yes. So Oregon has a law that actually does require certain people in our community to report child abuse. It's called a mandatory reporter law. Doctors, nurses, teachers, lawyers like myself, if we become aware of child abuse or elder abuse, older people being abused, we're required by law to report it. And the law does protect the identity of the reporter to a certain extent. So we can never guarantee that someone will remain confidential forever. If there's a court case, there's an investigation, it may not be confidential. That's a hard guarantee to make. But to the extent we can, we want people to feel comfortable coming forward and to be able to report it so that we can help make sure that child or that adult is safe.
Looking ahead, what are some initiatives or campaigns planned to continue advocating for these issues beyond this month? And how can the community members get involved?
Yes, so we have so many volunteer opportunities. All of the organizations that I mentioned earlier, Family Justice Center, Domestic Violence Resource Center, Sexual Assault Resource Center, CARES Northwest, they all have opportunities for people to volunteer and to support. And, of course, support can come in different ways. It can come with people spreading awareness. It can come with people volunteering and doing work for an organization in their spare time. It can also come with fundraising. And not everyone is able to spend lots of money in, but sometimes just $5 here, $10 there, it helps, because that fundraising also shows community support. And a lot of these organizations, they operate on very small budgets, and they squeeze every dollar out to try and help out the victims of these different crimes. So we want to make sure they get the support they need year-round, not just in the month of April, so that they can do their important work and help us do ours.
Wonderful. Is there anything else would you like to add?
Well, I would just like to say that we know that there are people out there who've had these horrible things happen to them or their loved ones, and they haven't reported it for various reasons, and we understand that. But we want every one of your viewers to know that we wish they would come forward and report so we can help make them feel safe. We want victims of these crimes to know that we see them, we hear them, and we're here for them to get justice.
Thank you. Thank you. Agradecemos al fiscal Kevin Barton por su compromiso con nuestra comunidad y por compartir esta valiosa información con todos nosotros. Recuerden, la comunidad juega un papel vital en la creación de un entorno seguro y solidario para todos. Así que sigamos informándonos y apoyando en estas importantes causas e iniciativas. Así que no se vayan, vamos a una pequeña pausa y regresamos.
Elemento Latino es una producción de ICG.